Welcome. Have you ever wondered how the medicines of the future actually get picked? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the incredibly high-stakes world of pharmaceutical development and see exactly how these companies make billion-dollar bets on which drugs get made and which ones get left on the cutting room floor.
It really all boils down to this one almost impossible question. Okay, put yourself in their shoes for a second. You've got a whole pipeline of potential new drugs. You know one of them could be a massive breakthrough, something that changes millions of lives and, of course, secures your company's future. But you also know that statistically, almost all of them are going to fail. So, where do you place your bet?
A great way to think about it is like being a Hollywood producer. Imagine you've got 10 amazing scripts just sitting on your desk. One of them could be the next global blockbuster, but the other 9, they might not even make their budget back. And here's the kicker. You only have the cash to greenlight one. Just one. So, what's it going to be? The sci-fi epic? The heartfelt drama? That's the exact dilemma pharma companies face every single day, just with way, way higher stakes.
To really get why this is so tough, we have to understand the sheer scale of this gamble. It's not just about picking a winner. It's about being able to survive all the losses along the way.
Let's start with this number and let it sink in for a second. 90%. That is the staggering, mind-boggling failure rate for new drugs once they enter human clinical trials. That means 9 out of every 10 candidates that looked amazing in the lab will ultimately fail. 9 out of 10.
And what about that one drug that actually makes it through? Well, its journey is an absolute marathon. We're talking 12 years, and honestly, often even longer, from that first little spark of discovery in a lab to the day it finally lands on a pharmacy shelf. It's just an incredible investment of time, money, and, well, hope.
And this, right here, this chart shows you the brutal financial reality of it all. See, the cost of developing that one successful drug isn't just its own price tag. No, it has to cover the enormous costs of all the other drugs that failed. So making the right choice isn't just about profit, it's about survival. It's what keeps the entire engine of medical innovation running.
Okay, so this isn't just a theoretical problem, right? Let's dive into a real-world case study to see how one company actually tackled this massive challenge head-on.
So, meet our protagonist. It's a small pharmaceutical company based in Israel. They had a whole portfolio filled with promising drug candidates for various infectious diseases. Their goal was pretty clear. Figure out which of their drugs had the best chance of making it big in the huge US and European markets. But, being a small company, their resources were tight. They couldn't bet on everything. They had to make some tough choices.
And this quote from the study just nails their dilemma. It was a tightrope walk. They needed a smart way to pour fuel on the fire for their most promising drugs, while also being disciplined enough to cut their losses on the ones that just weren't as likely to pan out. So, how on earth do you make that call?
Well, you don't do it with a gut feeling or by throwing a dart at a board. You do it with a playbook. A clear, data-driven process that's designed to cut through all that complexity and turn all that uncertainty into a real strategic advantage.
And that playbook is a really rigorous 4-step process. It starts broad with a market assessment. Then it zooms in with an opportunity assessment. It digs deep into the unmet needs. And finally, it projects the market and future valuation. Let's break down what each of those means really quick.
So, first up is the market assessment. This is all about mapping out the entire playing field. You got to understand the disease, what treatments are already out there, and who your competitors are. Basically, you have to know the game inside and out before you can even think about playing.
Next is the opportunity assessment, where you size up each one of your own drug candidates to see if it's really unique. Then comes the unmet needs analysis, and this asks maybe the most important question. Does this drug solve a real problem for patients that nothing else can? And finally, the future valuation takes all that data and turns it into a hard number, projecting the potential revenue to see if that billion-dollar bet is actually worth making.
Okay, so you've done all this work. You have mountains of data on the market, on your competitors, on each of your drugs. Now for the magic trick, turning all of that information into a clear, simple, actionable decision.
And boom, here's the result. All of that complex analysis allows you to sort every single drug candidate into one of 3 dead simple buckets. First, you've got your high priority bucket. These are your potential blockbusters. You pour your money and resources right here. Second, the divest bucket. These assets are less likely to win, so you sell them or license them out to free up cash. And third, the reevaluate bucket. These are interesting, but you just need more data before you make the final call.
And that's the whole point, isn't it? This framework does something incredible.
It takes what feels like a chaotic mess of possibilities and turns it into a simple, clear roadmap for action. Go fast here, stop here, and get more info here. It creates true strategic clarity out of chaos. And a process like this has an impact that goes way beyond just one company's bottom line. Because, when you think about it, making smarter bets ultimately leads to better medicine for all of us.
I mean, for the company, the change is just night and day. They went from having their resources scattered all over the place, with tons of uncertainty, to having focused investments and a really clear strategy. They lowered the risk and put themselves in the absolute best position to maximize their return.
But here's why this really matters to you and me. When companies make smarter bets like this, they stop wasting precious time and money on drugs that are probably going to fail anyway. And instead, they can channel those limited resources into the projects with the biggest potential. You know, the medicines that can actually help patients who need them the most.
So, I'll leave you with this one final thought. Right now, somewhere in a boardroom, a team is looking at a framework just like this, and they are making a decision that could lead to the next breakthrough treatment for cancer, Alzheimer's, or some rare disease. These billion-dollar bets, guided by cold, hard data and smart strategy, are quietly shaping the future of all of our health.